So Niranjan, just to introduce myself, this is Prashant. I'm a customer success architect. So I want to ask Niranjan a couple of questions on behalf of the community here. So over the course of my implementations globally, I've been asked multiple questions. So one of the major questions that I get across is how is Salesforce DX different from AutoRABIT or an Eclipse IDE or a Maven's Mate or a developer's local machine?
Yeah, good question. So Eclipse IDE, Maven's Mate, these are for development purposes, but it's a lot more than development. If I want to move some data, I want to validate, if I want to check in my code, we need to have a more streamlined system. That is where DX is a value add for all this, if you ask me.
Great.
So we have AutoRABIT open here. Let me focus myself on the DX capabilities in this conversation, while AutoRABIT has a lot of other great things. So as you can see, it starts with DevHub.
So I'm sorry for interrupting again. So is the DevHub different from a production org?
Okay, good question. So where should this DevHub be? From what we see from Salesforce documentation, for all the customers, your production can be your DevHub. You can enable DevHub in your production, and they have made it very clear that there are no performance issues. For all the ISVs, there is a business org. That can be the DevHub. So registering DevHub in AutoRABIT is pretty seamless. We have a register DevHub here, where we can register DevHub using OAuth or username, password, security token. And here I have a DevHub that is already registered. Now let me take back to my developer story. I need a user story to start working. So let me go ahead and create a user story for myself. So I am in the Jira. I am taking Jira as a reference in this webinar, but AutoRABIT supports multiple ALM tools. Even if there is no ALM tool, still you can maintain custom requirements and have effective user story management in AutoRABIT. Yes, assign it to the current sprint. DW29, this is my Jira task ID that's got created. Now let me go ahead to AutoRABIT user story management section.
So Niranjan, so another question that keeps popping up is, so from the point of time to manage a developer lifecycle, it looks like I need to be shuffling between my Sandbox, my Scratch org, my ALM story, and my version control. Is it really that hard?
Yeah, it forms the ecosystem. ALM, source control, Scratch org, Sandbox has formed the development ecosystem, development and release ecosystem. And in AutoRABIT, what we have done, which I'll demonstrate shortly, is bring all of them under one cloud, one AutoRABIT cloud. Let me just demonstrate the same. So this is the user story that is assigned to me, DW29. Now when I click here, it takes me to a view of this user story. Here you can see I can create a Scratch org for this story. I can create a Git branch for this or a SVN branch for this story. I can load metadata into this. I can check in my changes. I can merge my changes. I can deploy them into a Sandbox. I can validate. I can run Apex tests. I can move data. You can see that you have an integrated check-in, merge, deploy, built at one place while connecting ALM, version control, and Salesforce together. That is the power of this screen. Now let me go ahead and start doing things. Now let me assign a Scratch org for this, or let me create a new Scratch org. Let me select my DevHub. You can see the name of the Scratch org is Jira Task ID, which makes it seamless for tracking the progress of the story items. You can see all the features that are available in DX today are all supported in AutoRABIT as well, and all the preferences as well. Now let me go ahead and create it. Now what this does now is it goes to my dev hub, and then it creates a scratch org, and then it sets it up for me. Once the scratch org is created, then I can see that scratch org present in my user story management itself. So you can see that scratch org has been created successfully. I'll take a moment, I'll log into scratch org right from here and show it to you. Before I do that, let me also create a feature branch. I can again push my changes from scratch org into one of the existing branches, but in an ideal state, I would always want to have one feature developed in one scratch org, maintained in one feature branch, and move it to release line as and when I'm done. That is why let me create a new branch. Let me select my repository. You can see the branch name also auto-populated. Let me select development as my parent, and let me click create. Now what this does is it goes to GitHub, chooses parent as development branch, and creates my feature branch. Now let me just quickly see it here. Do I see DW29? I see up to 28. Just let me refresh my GitHub here real quick, and then I can see that my feature branch is created. Awesome. Now let me go ahead, and now that I have my scratch org, now I would want to load some metadata into it, which are required for my story. So now let me click on load metadata here. I can choose my org from where I want to get my changes. Let me choose my production to fetch some metadata. AutoRABIT has an excellent selective deployment wherein you can choose source control as your source, or you can choose an org as your source, and it retrieves all the metadata, and you can handpick and you can deploy to your orgs.
So Niranjan, I have customers who are typically low code or no code administrators, and since DX is entirely CLI and AutoRABIT has integrated DX, is there a learning curve involved with AutoRABIT as well?
Yeah, any team in DevOps perspective, if a CA journey has to be successful, the entire team has to be up for it. It's not just developers use some CLI and administrators has no support for the same. So when both teams go hand in hand, that is when development process will move on. That is where in AutoRABIT we have given support for all metadata, be it configuration, be it code, can be packaged, can be, so which means the team, it is seamless for the team. What they are working today as part of their development, they can continue. And they can use AutoRABIT for managing the scratch orgs, pushing to Git, all things without any separate learning. But while is it good for them to individually learn some of these aspects? It's definitely good.
I can see what you're saying on the screen now.
So just to demonstrate it, let me take class, object, profile, which is meeting all needs of multiple teams. So I have taken an Apex class, couple of test classes. Let me also go ahead and pick up some custom objects here. I have a demo webinar object, and let me also pick up a profile, because we believe if profiles, the checking of profiles is not automated, there will be a lot of manual stuff still lying, even when you automate rest of the metadata. So we strongly recommend profiles and permission sets also be part of the check-in and automated deployment process. Let me take a profile. A webinar profile. Now, with AutoRABIT self-deployment, you can actually compare these orgs, see code differences, and then deploy, but these are new members. So I'm directly going ahead and clicking on deploy. You can see, you can validate this deployment, you can take backup, which you can use it for later rollback as well. And then in case of profile deployment, if you have any visibility missing for some of the members, you can let profile be deployed with warnings. This saves a lot of effort for profile deployment. Let me go ahead and deploy this. All these classes, objects, profiles will be deployed. So this is the screen that you see shortly will be the deployment history screen, where you can see deployments passing, deployments, validate deployments, deployments failing. In case of failures, you will see here, and you will have detailed step-by-step log in the deployment log. And while it is done, what I'll like to do is, let me go ahead and actually log into my Scratch org as well using AutoRABIT. I'm just duplicating the tab just so that I can do multiple things. Let me go to my DevHub management again. This is my DW29, and this is where I can open my org. So right from AutoRABIT itself, I am opening my Scratch org. You can see all these things are deployed. The webinar profile, the object, these Apex class, test classes are beautifully deployed into my environment. You can see here, it's all green. It's all green. All the components are deployed. Now I can see the same even in my Scratch org as well. Now let me go ahead and start making some changes. Let me create a field. I am creating a custom field as part of my development of my story. Let me click next. Let me give field level security for not all, but maybe for 1 or 2 profiles, so that I don't corrupt my environment. I am leaving it for my webinar profile. And let me click next. That's the layout that's created. Let it be. Now I am clicking on save. Now what you can see is this field has impacted a profile, a layout, and these are typical configuration changes. Now AutoRABIT has a very rich dynamic Apex test detection, which means if there is any Apex class as part of the package, AutoRABIT will automatically identify the dependent test classes and run them. This will save a lot of issues related to code coverage in the later stages of your release process. So let me go ahead and demonstrate it. Let me make changes to any of my Apex class. I will not touch test classes and see what AutoRABIT does. I am making some changes. Let me click save. So I have made changes to a class, I have made changes to a field, profile, layout, typical components that we work day in and day out as part of development process. Now let me go to AutoRABIT. I have promised Prashant that throughout this webinar I will not go out of this screen except for development purposes. So here you can see we created a Scratch org, we created a branch, we loaded the metadata. Now we made some changes as part of development. Provisioning is done here. Once provisioning is done, next is development. Now when development is done, it's time for me to push the changes to GitHub. This is where I click on new commit. Now when I click on this, what AutoRABIT does is it automatically picks up my feature branch, picks up my scratch org, picks up my Jira story, and then populates it.
So Niranjan, this is great, but does Salesforce DX also integrate with an enterprise scale version control such as Team Foundation Server or TFS?
Yeah, great question. So DX is pretty much from a scratch org perspective. And what AutoRABIT has done is extended DX to support GitHub, TFS. We have built additional APIs around it to support the source control part of it as well. So it's not just from a scratch org perspective, but it's integrated with source control as well. They can check in to TFS, to GitHub, on-premise, behind the firewall, or in cloud. So let me click Fetch Changes so that AutoRABIT can fetch the changes that are done in the scratch org, so that we can submit these changes for a check-in gate for validation. And then if it is all good, if the reviewer approves it, then the changes will be checked into source control system. Here you can see AutoRABIT is analyzing the entire scratch org for all the metadata changes, and then once it completes it, it will populate. You can see below the Jira ticket automatically populated. So now so that we can set the status of this ticket, and the best part is you will be able to see all this information written back to Jira as well, which will be exciting part when you see the result. So these are all the members that are modified in this particular scratch org. Now I am only selecting an Apex class here because I want AutoRABIT to detect these test cases, detect these test classes and run. So I am not selecting them. And let me select other members, say demo object, the custom field, and then we have a layout. We have the profile. Now let me set status of the story as in progress, because I am making some progress here. And let me go ahead and click on validate and commit. Let us see what will happen here. Now when I click on validate and commit, it gives me a lot of options. Let me say I am validating DW29 user story. And I want to validate the story on any org of my choice. I can validate on any org of my choice. Let me validate it with my release sandbox. And I want to see code level differences, configuration differences to review what actually is changed. I want to see static code analysis to see if there are any coding violations that are introduced. And I want AutoRABIT to identify and run test classes for any Apex classes that are part of this check-in. Awesome. Now let me choose a reviewer here. I am choosing myself for the sake of convenience so that we don't log in and log out from AutoRABIT. I can see ignore visibility settings for smooth deployment of my profiles. Let me click proceed for validation. Now here AutoRABIT does a lot of great things. First, it goes to source. Because there's an Apex class, it identifies all the dependent test classes, runs them on source. So the lead or reviewer can see, did the developer run test classes in the source? Then will be results. You can see the DW29 user story. It has started. And first it runs Apex tests on source. Then it runs static code analysis. Then it does validate deployment on destination. Then it does show us the code differences, and it sets up me for approval process. Let me just refresh it once. And I can also see here the step-by-step log that is happening. So in AutoRABIT started the process. It is identifying the test classes for the, because it has seen an Apex class submitted as part of change. It is verifying whether these tests are it identified that there are 2 test classes. And now it started to run code coverage for the same. It has completed it. Now we'll move on to running the static code analysis and doing a validate deployment on the destination. You can see that part is done. Now it started metadata retrieval for deployment validation. Now while it is in progress, you can also see as each step is done, you can see that it is, for example, Apex test results are there. Now let me click here. This is my class that is submitted as part of change. And these are the test classes which AutoRABIT automatically identified and also run, giving me the code coverage if these test classes will pass. And once this is done, you can see static code analysis complete now. And when I click this, it will show me the coding violations. We have extended PMD and added more rules. We constantly interact with Salesforce Architect community for their feedback, and we constantly update these rules. And if, as a team, if you want to change these rules or change these priorities, that is also quite possible. And so typically where we see customers starting is they set priority 1 and 2 as an exit and entry criteria for their release process. Okay, this is done. Now you can see that even the validate deployment is also done, which means the deployment is verified on the destination. You can see that components are deployed, and then you can also see automatically the dependent test classes are run on the destination as well. And now I can also see code level differences here. Let me click and see. These are what is there in source control, and this is what is actually changed. Awesome, I'm good. So as a lead, as a reviewer, I am happy that the code that is submitted has no code coverage issues on the source as well as on the destination. There are no coding violations. I have done the code review as well. It is deployable. There are no dependency issues. This is what I want from my development team to follow. And now I can simply go ahead and approve it. Now, once check-in is approved, you can see as a developer once I log in, the commit option will be enabled. So let me go ahead and commit this. All these changes now will be checked into GitHub. So you can see development, so you can see provisioning, development, all done through AutoRABIT on a guided path. You can see all these things checked in. Now let me just go ahead quickly to my GitHub to see if these changes are actually in here. So let me just quickly click on this DW29, and you can see that this is validation of user story 29, and this is the commit, and you can see all the changes that are part of it, whatever changes are done. So this is how very quickly as a team, if you want to onboard DX, it is, you can see in 15 minutes, what we could demonstrate to you is right from creation of scratch or populating the metadata, making your changes, submitting them for review, getting it approved, and then checking into source control are all possible inside one box. Now it's not just that, because it's not about development alone. AutoRABIT has excellent capabilities for release management as well. So that is where, since the commit is done, let me just refresh here. Let me just refresh here to see the commit information brought here. And let me also go to Jira once to see what is in store there for this user story. This is the TW29, and you can see the status has moved to in progress, and you can also see the message, the commit revision, the list of metadata members that are part, and the validation results, all written back into Jira. What this means is, for a Scrum Master, there is information about user story in Jira, there is information about Git, there is information about Salesforce, all written at one place. That helps a lot in tracking what metadata is there for a particular requirement. And it reduces a lot of communication and dependency overhead. Just going back, now the next is about the merge. Now we have it, we have pushed these changes into a feature branch. Now it's time to bring it to say master or bring it to an integration line. Now AutoRABIT has rich support for merge. It's the only, AutoRABIT is the only tool that has a merge editor in cloud. Even Bitbuckets or GitHubs of the world, they allow you to raise a pull request and merge, but the moment there's a conflict, you will be redirected to use a standalone tool like a source tree, like a GitHub for Windows, where you have to do the repeat the merge process and set up a WebEx with the peer for resolving the conflict. But with AutoRABIT, conflict resolution editor is also in cloud. So that is where we are ahead of this DevOps needs of Salesforce platform. So you can say, I will manually resolve, or I can choose from source, I can choose from destination. And you can send merge reports for other members in the team. And you can have a dry run, say for example, one day before, just to see what files are in conflict, which members should be available, and you can do actual merge as well. Now this submits a merge request, and then it says, okay, this is the revision that will be merged. Awesome. Go ahead and merge it. And once merge is done, there will be conflict reports. Merge will be successful, merge will be failing, and in case of any merge issues, you can actually go ahead and resolve them with conflict reports. And this is all there with AutoRABIT from quite some time. So I'm not going more in those aspects. Just coming back to the user story management. So run Apex tests, run data migration. So AutoRABIT has excellent data migration. I don't want to run deep here, but it is about you can pull an object, its parent, its child at once. You can move from a source directly to a destination. So it has data migration component as well. So this is in short what I wanted to demonstrate. We are close to 10 minutes from the time as well. So I leave the floor for any questions and feedback and take it from there.